This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an incredible guest. He is a fanatical fantasy commissioner, which I can respect. He aspires to one day live in a van and watch NFL Red Zone at his league mates' houses. From Dynasty Wall Street and Fantasy Cares, it's the one and only John Bosch. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. This is the bucket list. I love this show, and I love talking about commissions. Two great commissions. So like this, I'm very excited for this today.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on here. Lots to go over. Excited to get going. So for listeners that are unfamiliar with your work, what is Dynasty Wall Street, and what is your role with Fantasy Cares?
Yeah, so Dynasty Wall Street is a podcast that's on the Dynasty Trade Calculator Network. I host that with Russ Fisher, who's at Dynasty Outhouse, and Travis May at FF_Travis M. Two really good friends, and we basically just get on there and use the trade calculator's values to discuss different players each week. We don't go over necessarily all the like current events that are always happening. It's strictly like player value, comparing who would we trade for, what would we trade for. That's what we all love about fantasy football. And Travis also loves like Devian college stuff. So we get a little bit of that knowledge from him too. But for Russ and I, it's mostly we just like trading. So Dynasty Wall Street, where we just talk about player values. Fantasy Cares, well, that's gotten a lot bigger. So that has grown. I work with, Scott Fish, Bob Gilchrist, and Russ Fisher. We're the executive board that is doing everything behind the scenes at Fantasy Cares, trying to get more and more money raised for charity that we distribute around the country at this point, whether it be through SFB Live, the Fantasy Cares Eliminators. We just did a Masters contest. I mean, we have lots and lots of contests now throughout the years. Fun merch, lots of stuff that we are doing, and it has become a full-time volunteer job, basically. So we put in a lot of time, but it's showing. We're having a lot of fun and seeing a lot of fun results, and it's great to see the community support it.
Well, it's such an amazing charity, and it's grown so much. Obviously, these last couple of years, it's going through the roof. It's fantastic, everything that's being done out of Fantasy Cares, and I love the content that's being created when you're doing your videos with Bob and Russ. I mean, it's great stuff. And again, everything that Fantasy Cares is doing is amazing. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that as we go. But you did mention the Fantasy Cares Eliminator Leagues. You are obviously known for being a psychotic commissioner when it comes to creating leagues and unique leagues and unique formats. One thing you are definitely known for are those Fantasy Cares Eliminator Leagues. What are those all about? For people that don't know, what is a Fantasy Cares Eliminator League?
Yeah, the Fantasy Cares Eliminators are something I started, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point. At one point, I was talking with Scott, and this was back when we were just a fundraising group, and he asked if I had any ideas on ways to generate more. What's something we could do to get more donations? And I said, well, there's these eliminator leagues that if we can get like a celebrity to come and play in them, I bet people will donate to play against that celebrity. And sure enough, they did. They have taken off. Last year we did over 170 of them. The first year I wanted to raise $1,000 and do 10 of them. We ended up doing 30 in the first year. So that's how popular they became. At this point now, we have basically anybody you can think of in the fantasy space. You can join, make a donation, play against them in an eliminator league. We do a best ball draft with, we're going to call it very unique scoring each year. The scoring changes every year, and the scoring is never going to be anything close to a standard league because that's what makes it fun. We include things like punters and coaches because it's an 18-team league where you draft 16 rounds. So we have to get pretty deep. But then each week, the lowest scoring team is eliminated. So come week 17, there are 2 teams left vying for that championship. So it's they've taken off. Scott's done some amazing work coding the background that has basically allowed us to fill that many leagues. Last year, I think we filled 100. Like I said, it was over 170. And I think it took us like 2 weeks in May to fill them. So they filled up quickly, and there's no way we could have done that without Scott like building us this awesome database to be able to process all that work. And I have a team of helpers. At this point, Alan Hepworth is actually stepping up to take more of the reins. He jumped in last year in a much bigger way. And at this point now I'm kind of turning over the eliminators to him to take on way more of, so that I can do more other things with Fantasy Cares. They all become very, very time consuming, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, there's not enough time in the day, but you seem to maximize your time. So it's always fun to see what you're up to. And those Fantasy Cares Eliminator Leagues are again so well known for a reason, because they're a lot of fun. You obviously are obsessed. I mean, obsessed with fantasy sports. You're obsessed with being a commish. You have to be a massive sports fan to have gotten to this point. Where did it all begin for you when it comes to your love for sports?
I played. I mean, I grew up one of 5 kids, and we had a nice sized backyard, and I was outside in the backyard every day playing soccer, playing baseball, playing football. There was a park right next door to us, and then we'd go over there and play basketball. So, I mean, I as a kid, I played just about every sport except football. Did not actually play football, but played just about every other sport. Swimming in the summer. It was just sport to sport to sport my entire life as a kid. I loved competing, and I definitely developed a love for sports through playing.
Who are your favorite teams and players growing up?
Yeah, well, teams are a sore spot because I've divorced them, but I grew up a Bengals fan. I'm from Cincinnati. I grew up a diehard Reds fan. I used to go back when I really followed baseball. I would go to like 30 or 40 baseball games a year. So I was at like half of their home games. It was a blast. Then you grow up, you have kids, it gets a little more challenging, and don't quite do that anymore. But soccer was like always my real passion. That is what I am before anything else. But I never had like a favorite player because it was never super popular to be able to follow in America when I was a kid. So it was mostly just kind of watching the Olympic teams, which I still love doing. Baseball, Ricky Henderson was my guy. I loved Ricky Henderson. So I'll never forget that. And the Reds played against him in the Earthquake World Series. So I had I quickly went all in on rooting for the Reds because it was pretty clear where that series was going. But at the beginning of it, I was a little bit torn because, hey, my favorite player's playing against my favorite team. So
Ricky, I mean, what a unique player. So competitive. What he did on the base paths, I mean, like it's historic and underappreciated because he was truly an incredible baseball player.
Unique
That's
individual.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Very, very unique.
Very unique. Yeah, I loved it. I loved when he'd wear like, the bright baseball gloves and stuff like that. Like, as much as I'm not a flashy person, or I don't really care for it so much, like all the time. Like, I don't go out of my way for that, but I loved it when he'd do it. Like, I loved it. It was so much fun. I enjoyed watching him as a kid, collecting his baseball cards. I think his cards are the only ones I still have. My Ricky Henderson collection somewhere up in an attic somewhere.
Nice. So as a sports fan, what's the worst loss you ever experienced? And what's your favorite all-time moment as a sports fan?
Well, like I said, I'm a Cincinnati fan, so the all-time moments are limited. I think I would have to go with the 1990s World Series team, but I'm a Bearcat fan. So remember when we had Kenyon Martin and he broke his leg in a year that they were just dominating. So that's how normally the Cincinnati sports fan story ends. As a Bengals fan, I can tell you the worst loss, and it was the night that I divorced them and dove head on in to fantasy football. It was the playoff game against Pittsburgh where they had the game won, and Burfict just goes nuts on the field and literally cost them a playoff game. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with this team. I got really upset, and I was that stereotype angry person watching the TV wanting to smash it. I didn't because I'm not an idiot. But I understood that feeling. And I was like, this is just not worth it. I don't need to root for them anymore. I'm just going to root for the teams that I like. And I'm just going to play way more fantasy football. So
that's awesome.
It definitely led me into this.
So when did you discover fantasy for the first time?
The first time I played in a fantasy football league, I was a junior in high school. I graduated high school in 99. So I co-managed a team with my best friend, and we actually co-managed that team all the way up until last year was the first year that I stepped away from that league. So it was a hard decision, but it was redrafted and the rules hadn't changed since I joined. Like they are still the original rules of the league. I play in a lot of leagues now where I find a little more interest in the rules and stuff like that. So I was literally only still hanging in that league to manage it with him. And I finally realized, look, we're in so many other leagues together at this point. It doesn't matter. I don't need to hang in this league that I wasn't paying attention to it much and kind of felt like I was letting him down most of the time. So stepped away from that. But that was 1998 then. That would have 97. Yeah. 97 would have been my first year playing. Loved it right away. Loved it right away.
That's incredible. 25-year league. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool to hear about. Do you remember whose content you consumed like way back in the day when you first fell in love with fantasy?
So when I back then, way back in the day, it was the magazine. It was Fantasy Football Index on the beach in the summer. Like that was that was part of my beach trip when I would go to the beach in July. Like I wanted that magazine. I wanted to sit on the beach and read that magazine. And that was it. Like that was all I consumed. And then of course, once I divorced the Bengals and got into fantasy football in a hardcore way, I started finding podcasts and I'm like, oh wow, there's a bunch of other people that are kind of just as crazy as I am. And this is fun. Then I joined Twitter and started paying attention and stuff like that. So it got real fun real fast for me.
When you first started to develop that love for fantasy, what was it that hooked you? What did you love most about the experience?
That I am the one in charge. Like I can only blame myself. I can only reward myself for the wins and losses. I can't control what the Bengals do. I can't, no matter how much I yell at the TV, Mike Brown doesn't hear me. So, but I can yell at myself and I can tell myself what to do. So that was more of it. I like having the responsibility of what I am rooting for and having the ability to kind of create my own happiness in watching football versus somebody else creating frustration in me watching football.
Nice. What do you enjoy most about commissioning leagues?
This is the creativity. Like this is my art. I am aware of it. I am not an artistic person. I cannot draw a stick figure. That's not how I work, but I am a strategist. I love strategy games. So for me, fantasy football is just one big strategy game. Like I used to play a lot of online poker. When that got taken away, that also kind of coincided with me starting to play a little bit more fantasy football because I could take that strategy, that game theory over to fantasy football and apply it there. And there aren't a lot of people that create leagues that are beyond something kind of standard. So, Ryan McDowell, Scott Fish, these are the folks that I ended up gravitating to. When I found Ryan's series, Keep Dynasty Weird, to me, I was like, oh, this is heaven. This is an epiphany. This is what I want. So once I started to go that path, it was more, okay, how can I make this fantasy football game that we all play into almost a board game that I want to be able to play and have to attack from different strategies and play different ways. That's what I find most intriguing. And most of the time that means me having to set it up because it becomes a lot more work.
So are your wheels just constantly turning when it comes to creating unique formats and leagues?
Yep, it's terrible. I have a lot of ideas that come and go. I have finally learned that if I have an idea that I can't get rid of after a year, that's when I will start a new league. Like it has to literally eat at me for a year because, 4 or 5 years ago, anytime I had a new idea, I'm like, oh, let's start that league. That's going to be fun. And they have been. But then I find myself running 20 leagues, which becomes a challenge. So now at this point, I'm a little bit more selective in the leagues that I set up. I still start probably one a year, it feels like, but it's usually an idea that I have thought out for over a year. And if I can't get rid of it, the only way for me to do something with it is to create that league and start it and see how it plays out.
I love that. So what's your favorite league you've ever created? Like the most memorable league you've ever created?
This is really, really hard. Like Power Hungry was my baby because that was it still is a super power based league. So I have always wanted in fantasy football to be able to say, there is defense in this game now. You can do something. Like they always say, you can't control what your opponent does. Oh, but if you have the power to, you can. So you just have to create a game where somebody can do things like that player has to go off the field now. That player is only going to score half their amount of points. You can't start that player. So in Power Hungry, we have superpowers that allow us to do that kind of thing. So there's more strategy involved in that league than like any other fantasy football league I've ever played in. So that one's really high up there. I really like my Empire and Supremacy leagues as well, just because those are basically like 6 different pillars of fantasy football that the same group competes in. So from a different standpoint, that really makes it hard to luck into a win because you're playing 6 different formats every year over a 5-year period to really win the big prize. So like you're not lucking into winning a championship in that. It really takes work. And I love that. So those are probably my top 2 like favorite unique leagues. They're not my favorite style of fantasy football to play though. Salary cap. Give me salary cap.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are your favorite types of leagues to commission? But I'm sure it's salary cap.
Oh no, I hate commissioning it.
Okay. That's too much work.
It's so much work, but I love playing in them. And I run 3 of them because they are my favorite, and I love playing in them. When I find somebody else that runs a salary cap league that I like the rules and the setup of, I'm like, yes, I definitely want to be in that league. Dan Myler's got one that is absolutely great called Dead Presidents, and it's so good, and I love it because I don't have to run any of it. I get to just play in it. I'm like, wow, this is really, really fun and relaxing, and it's no work, no extra work on me. I get to be just a manager in it, and I love it. But salary cap, it's so good to play when you can set up kind of custom rules on how a manager has to truly value a player's contract and stuff like that. It's so different. It changes the game.
Yeah, it takes a lot of dedication to get involved in a league like that and dive in and master it. So I can see the challenge is definitely there. So how many leagues do you play in, and how many do you commission?
Oh, commissioning, I think I'm at like 17. There a couple of years ago, I had a couple of them that somebody else stepped up to do. I wasn't gonna cancel them, but I just asked, like, is there anybody that would like to take this over? Because this one is, it's time consuming. I still like the league, but I need to cut down. So I got somebody to take over a couple of them. Actually, somebody's taking over Power Hungry at the end of this year. That's how usually I transition it. I find somebody and then I say, over the next year, we'll kind of run it together. I'll show you everything that I do. And then I know that league's in good hands because I don't want to just abandon it because I'm probably still going to play in it. Like if I'm still going to be playing, I want to know that it's going to be run well. So I think I'm at like, I don't know. You're talking just regular leagues, not like eliminator leagues, things like that. Those don't count. Yeah. Best ball things, those don't even count. Those are just set up and I'm done. So I think like actual leagues where I have to be paying attention a good amount, I think it's like 17 at this point, 17 to 20, somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I love that you delegate, to the apprentice. Like, it's the John Bosch commissioner tree. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked and been successful so far. I don't want my leagues like in bad hands, but there are times when, in order for me to do something new, I have to let go of something old. So if I can identify a person that is willing and I trust that, I will let people step in and take them over. It sounds weird, but to me, it's a nice progression, and it brings other people involved. Then
I love that, and it gets more people creative, creatively playing fantasy and thinking about ways to change it up. I think the more you inspire commissioners to create fun leagues, the more you're going to expand people's experience with fantasy and their love for fantasy, which again brings so much more than just the game to the plate, right? When it comes to connections and friendships and relationships, we need more fantasy in this world, and you're doing a great job with creating leagues for people. Do you have one league that you consider like your main league? Is there one league that that's the one that you have to win?
Oh, well, yeah, it's my home league. And we started, I think we're in like year 12 or 13. I am not kidding. When I figured it out this past year, I've gotten second place like 6 times.
Oh.
I've gotten third or fourth, which is, semifinals, like 2 or 3 other times. I have never won this league. It is my home league. It's a salary cap league. We come, everybody comes to my house. Everybody brings, something, food to share, plenty of beverages. We do an auction. Usually we have an actual, like, somebody to do the auctioning, because I want to be able to focus on my team, because daggone it, I'm going to win this league one year. But that is the league that I want to win above all else. And I probably never will. But thankfully, like, I really do have it's also the reason that I created the Empire League, because I finished second over and over and over. I get so many runner-ups, and I'm like, well, so many runner-ups over a 5-year span in 6 different formats, all of a sudden that puts me at the top. Maybe I'll win that one.
That's awesome.
That's why that was the impetus to literally creating the Empire League, was the amount of times that I get in the playoffs or I get in the finals, and then it's out of my control and I take a loss, and I'm like, oh, like, so consistently good. But if you don't win, it doesn't feel the same unless you're the number one team.
That's awesome. Do you have an all-time favorite, like, live draft experience, or an all-time favorite tradition that you and your home league members do?
Yeah, I mean, I love getting together. Like, it's something I usually put out, like, a calendar in May for the entire summer, like, so we can make sure everybody can come. Every once in a while, somebody has to step out after they've already confirmed. It happens, but getting everybody together and just doing it once a year is so much fun. I mean, that is easily my favorite tradition, my favorite draft experience. I look forward to that day every year. It is really, really fun. I have a very memorable, my very first fantasy football draft. And I am not kidding. Remember, I was a high schooler at this time. We were playing with some of our older brothers. So it was me and a few of my friends in this league. And then we all had brothers that were older and stuff, by a few years, whatever, and some of their friends. So we were all probably within 4 to 5 years, some in college, some in high school, and a fight. I am not kidding. And honest to goodness, fists being thrown fight broke out, spilled outside over the deck, which was not a high deck, thankfully, but they did go over the banister, and a neighbor called the cops. The cops actually came to the very first fantasy football experience I ever had. And I was like, oh my God. But I mean, it's definitely memorable. It was a very passionate league full of a bunch of 17 to 24-year-old males. So it's definitely gotten way more tame as we've all gotten older. now everybody just kind of sits in their chairs, and there's not even much trash talking at this point, because everybody's just there. So.
Well, the best part about that is that's the league you just bowed out of. So this is the league that from the first time the police called a fight, that league is going 25 plus years.
Oh yeah. It was 25. They celebrated last year. They all went to Vegas to draft for year 25 to mark the anniversary of it, and it's a very, very cool league. So
I love that.
Definitely love that league. I just didn't feel like I was putting in the effort, quite frankly.
Sure. So when playing Dynasty, what are your tendencies when it comes to, like, roster construction these days? And has that evolved quite a bit over the years?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it has definitely evolved. I am full on, like, I don't care about running back at all. Unless I have Bijan, Christian McCaffrey, probably those two. That's about it. Other than that, I will go 0 RB and fill in. Superflex has to be a must. So I tend to focus on always trying to get a very good quarterback. And then I treat my QB2 spot kind of like a whatever spot as well. Because I can usually just fill that in with somebody that's going to be productive from year to year. So I go wide receiver heavy, and then I don't mind investing in top tier tight ends at this point, just because it makes my life easier to not have to roster like 6 or 7 and choose every week. I can just get Kelsey and slap him in there every single week. It's just easier for me. So I set like 40 or 50 lineups a week. I don't have to think about it when I get to my tight end spot. if I have an elite one. So I don't know if that's the best strategy, but it definitely works for me to just pay up a little extra and then not have to worry so much every week over my tight end spot.
Yeah, it might not be the best strategy for one specific league, but it's the
Yeah,
best strategy for you when you're you have so many other leagues you got to deal with.
for
Sometimes
sure.
you got to be efficient and intelligent about those kind of moves. So who's your biggest rivalry in a fantasy league? Like in all your fantasy leagues, who's the one person you just can't lose to?
Oh, it's my best friend Grant. It's the guy who introduced me and brought me in as his co-manager for
Okay.
fantasy football. And I mean, we have been best friends since we were, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years old. He lived right up the street from me, so we have been best friends and we have competed all our lives. And as unlucky as I am, he is the opposite side of the coin. So I know that like if we literally flipped a coin, he and I, and called it, he'd win 100 times. So that's just how it goes. I have to I have to beat him out in other ways then, because I know that if the ball the ball bounces, it's not going to bounce my way. I have to make it so that it doesn't matter if it bounces his way. But he is definitely my top rival. He knows that, and we joke about it quite frequently. I think he's won the league that I've never won. I think he's won it 2 or 3 times, which is quite annoying. I think he's beat me twice in the finals, and it's very frustrating. Like I said, he plays in a lot of my other leagues. There's a lot of times where he and I end up in the finals together, and I think I beat him a few times, but I know his record against me is definitely a winning record for him, unfortunately.
I love fantasy rivals. I love that everyone has that person that just is their nemesis. That's awesome. Oh, what's your favorite last place punishment out there? I mean, not something you've done, but there's obviously a million out there. What's your favorite last place punishment?
So I don't really have any in my leagues, just because I never want to be the commissioner that has to enforce it.
Sure.
So because I want to keep my job as easy as possible as commissioner. But the one that I really, really, really do like, I love forcing people to take the ACT.
Oh
There's a
yeah.
league that's around me that's been doing that since it was another league at the same school where I was a high schooler, and they were a couple of years older than me, and they've been doing the forced ACT thing like since college. So that they've been doing that for like 20 years, I think, and it's amazing. It's hilarious to me every time. I think they have to go in and they even have to wear like a Letterman jacket when they go. Like I think they fully make it super embarrassing for the person, and then they publish their score, stuff like that. I love having they have to wear like the T-shirt with their score to the draft the next year, things like that. So it's that is a punishment that really fits the crime. Like if you get last, oh, you're gonna have to take this ACT and just prove your intelligence. Not that an ACT is an excellent judge of intelligence, whatever, blah blah blah, which is true. But like I love that. I love that they force them to do that. That's 4 hours on a Saturday morning they have to go spend. They have to wake up instead of getting to sleep in.
Yeah,
It's so
that's pretty
mean.
good. That's pretty darn good. Do you have a favorite way to set draft order, or like a creative way to set draft order that you think is fun?
So for me, it's auction. Like I am auction. All
Yeah.
my leagues are auction. If you have to do a draft order, um, I don't like random. Obviously, it's what we use for the eliminators and for things that are, quick, easy, best ball, things like that. But if you have the choice, do any kind of competition. Do a cornhole competition, do a poker tournament, do anything where that makes it not random. Make somebody earn that spot, because then you can have more fun with it too. Like to me, having a cornhole competition, everybody gets to go and play and have fun.
Yeah.
Rotate it, because maybe every year maybe there's really bad cornhole players in your league, and that's not really fair to them. So rotate the competitions, figure out things. I've seen things like do an art contest where nobody has talent,
Yeah.
and everybody draws something, and then you have to post it and do like a bracket for who wins and stuff like that. I find those entertaining. So competitions where everybody's bad at it are just as fun as competitions where people are good at it. It's all about making somebody earn that 101, and not just, oh, your ball got picked first.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think a lot of competitions can be random, but at least it's fun, right? So whether it's just a skill-based challenge or even a randomized competition, you're getting together with your league mates and making it fun. So that's kind of what it's all about. And then also,
If you're doing the full weekend, do the Olympics. Do the full on
yes,
first day, make it an Olympics. Have a bunch of events. I mean, that's the ideal for me.
Yeah, because you can have multiple challenges in one that have a variance of skills, right? So that's awesome. And I think that the best thing to do is, once you have the results of that competition, is to let people choose their draft spot as opposed to just 1 through 12, 12 through 1, right? Would you agree on that?
Oh yeah, I love the Kentucky Derby selection. Getting to choose your draft slot. There's times where you don't want the 101 because you don't want to have to get the 212, and having the 104, you feel just as good. So if you earned that choice, you should get to make that choice for sure. I love
there
that
we go.
style.
Yeah, it's just another element of strategy too. You pick that draft spot.
Exactly.
So do you have favorite settings, formats, or platforms? Obviously, platforms is interesting because not all sites can do what you do with fantasy leagues.
There is only one site that can do what I do. All my leagues are on my fantasy league. That was actually a big impetus to me leaving that home league as well. That's the reason I wasn't paying attention to it, because it was still run on a different platform. It was the only league that I still had on another platform. Okay. So I just wasn't really paying attention to it anymore. So all my leagues are there because literally they cannot be run on any other platform. It's not possible to do any of the leagues that I run on any other platform, which is a shame. I wish there was more competition out there, but there simply isn't. So all my stuff is on my fantasy league. All my fees are handled through League Safe. So I have everything nice and tidy for all the leagues that I play in. And I love that. It's a dream. Casey Kasem has her shirt that says, like, my dream is that all my leagues are on one platform or something.
Oh, that's good.
Like, oh yeah, it's a dream come true. Trust me, just try it. It's really, really nice. Settings, it's got to be super flex at least. Or like, there's a word beyond that for like 2 super flexes in addition to a quarterback spot. I'm open for that. Like, I want to have multiple quarterbacks. So not a big fan of single quarterback unless you've got it to the point where the league is big enough, like 16 to 18 teams, and the settings for the quarterbacks make it so that quarterback 17 is very different from the quarterback 7. Like, you've really got to separate those to make it so that you have an advantage. As for like general settings, I like first down scoring. I find that to be a way better scoring than PPR, even though I do like PPR, but I like to blend it to make it so that like they kind of equal each other. Because getting that first down, I love first down scoring. I don't play IDP. I just don't feel like learning an entire other set of variables. I mean, it would double the amount of things that I have to pay attention to, and that's just not a time commitment that I am looking to put in right now. But in auction start is, I will never ever in my life join a startup that is a draft based league. I just don't find it as fun. I like that auction to give me that ability to do whatever I want with the assets that I have. I don't have to base my decisions on anybody else's decisions.
Yeah, no, that's people that go auction rarely go back because they see the way that it can really impact how you play, and you're acquiring the team that you want to acquire as opposed to letting everyone else pick your players. What advice do you have for commissioners that want to spice up their league?
So I get this question a lot, and it's hard because you can't force activity. You can try. There are some things you can put in that help, but overall, the biggest thing that a commissioner can do to have a league that's going to be active is to make sure they have managers that want to be active in a league. That is where it all starts. I am fairly picky and choosy. I understand I have a platform, so I'm spoiled as well, to the point where I can choose people that I know are going to be picky or going to be active. And I feel comfortable asking people that are inactive, do you really want to be in this league? A lot of times they take that and they will say, no, not really. And I'm like, okay, I kind of tell. So that is a hard conversation to have. But for a commissioner, if they really want their league to be what they want it to be, it comes down to the managers that are in it. So it's not necessarily rude to say, do you really want to be in this league? somebody might be looking to get out, but they feel obligated to stay. So giving them that opening to leave is an opening they can take. And then you can pull in somebody that's going to be active to the level that you want and going to participate and going to enjoy the team. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you have the managers, the activity usually takes care of itself. Some of the little things you can do that I do in a few of my leagues, I run best ball leagues with the team for really small prizes. So like I said, most of my leagues are auctions. So instead of, you play and the winner gets like 10 extra auction dollars in the rookie auction. Overall, that's going to be less than the very final value of a pick, but it's something to play for. People get in there. They talk in the chat about the best ball. I usually run one in February, like right when MFL rolls over. I will set one up, which is, a nice, like, welcome to the new season. All the new managers are here. If we've replaced anybody, let's everybody get to know each other. And then in this best ball draft that we're going to do, then I usually do another one, like kind of in July. These are for my dynasty leagues where the season is getting ready to come back to being started. There's training camps going on. I want people to start thinking about that upcoming season of the NFL. I want to make sure everybody is still being around, being active, being involved, give them the opportunity to interact with other people in the league. And again, get that chat going. So you can do things like forced trade offers, things like that. But ultimately, anybody with a brain is going to figure out a way to get around that. And it's going to be a burden as opposed to stimulating trade activity. They're people that don't want to do it are just going to send terrible offers, things like that. The best ball things are the things that I have found that create a competition. Like, these are the people playing in these leagues usually are competitive people. So even if it's for a very little prize, it's fun. It's fun to beat your friends and stuff.
Of course, it surely is. How do you go about vetting potential league managers? Like, beyond just asking, like, hey, do you want to be in a competitive league?
Yeah. So every year, usually around December 1st, like when the calendar rolls to December, that's usually that's when most people are setting up their fantasy playoffs. I am also then setting up my plan for the next year. Every year I put my Google form out to sign up to play in my leagues. I will give a description of every league. I'll give a link to the bylaws. I don't even know if I have openings yet, but I will start taking signups. I will make sure that gets shared in all of my league chats. I'll share it in other active league chats that I know of. That's the first step, is getting the information out there, presenting it. I don't publish the teams that are going to be open because, one, I don't know them, but also when somebody chooses to be in one of my leagues, I want to know that they're choosing it because of the league, not just because, this player's on this team and I don't have this player on any roster. Because what happens when that player gets hurt or gets arrested or something like that? Like, then your entire motivation to join this league is gone. So I try to target people that just want to play in the league based on the rules, based on that. So that's my first step. Once I start getting signups, I mean, if they're people that I know, that makes it real easy. And I've come to know a lot of names through everything that I do with Fantasy Care. So again, I know I am a spoiled platform person because I know these names that play in SFB. I know these names that play in Fantasy Care's Eliminators. And that makes it a lot easier for me. Usually the people that are playing in those are usually pretty decent people from the start because we try our best to make sure that we are getting people that are generous and helpful and fun-loving in those leagues. So that makes it a little easier for me. But after that, I mean, it's usually just, I go to Twitter, I check out how they interact on Twitter. There are a lot of people that don't realize, look, it's real easy to search your Twitter timeline. I can look at your replies. I can see if you are the type of person that everything you reply to some fantasy football person is positive or negative. And I can cross your name off real fast sometimes when like every response is, well, I think you're wrong about that. I'll be nice and say that's how they are. But you see some combative people and it's like, why would I bother with this in my league? So social media is a very easy way to vet. If it's somebody that I don't know at all, usually I'll ask around. Again, spoiled because I have access to Scott and Ryan and Matt Price, Russ Fisher, other commissioners that run a lot of leagues and have interacted with a lot of people. So, Peter Gant, if any of them, Nathan Powell, if they have they might know the name. I'll reach out to them and say, does anybody know this person? Hey, have they ever been in one of your leagues? Yes, no. What do you think? So commissioners talk. Like if you get a rep in somebody's league, it's probably going to get around, and it's probably going to be deserved, quite frankly. So it happens.
It happens. It really does. And when it comes to what you're doing, again, I mean, just as a commish, like I respect everything you're doing. I think that's a great process for vetting everything you're doing. All the stuff we've just talked about. Like it blows me away what you're doing in the world of the fantasy commissioner, and it's pretty awesome to hear all that stuff. So when did you decide to dive into the fantasy community? When did you discover the fantasy community, and what inspired you to get involved?
Yeah, it was really that Bengals game. Like that. I mean, that it was the flip of a switch. It was that night. I am not kidding you. That night that I wrote out my bylaws for the Empire League, that became kind of my first like big league that I did anything with. When I wrote out those bylaws, I then sought out people that had unique leagues. I did not know Scott. I did not know Ryan at that time. I literally sent my bylaws to DLF, like emailed it to DLF, and they're like, hey, can anybody take a look at this? I think this could be fun, but I kind of want to get some feedback on it. Well, obviously this caught Scott and Ryan's attention because they're like, oh my gosh, there's another one of us. So, so that was my introduction to them. And that was from there on, it was talking about crazy leagues, things like that. Scott brought me into his original Capitalist Pigs League. That was the first auction that I ever did, was the Capitalist Pigs League. And I am not kidding when I say it was a baptism by fire. Like I was hooked instantly. My team was terrible year one, but I can remember when that took place being like giddy, because I'm like, oh my gosh, these people that I'm playing against, the people that I listen to, like, this is so weird. This is crazy. How did I get into this? but I was able to then eventually learn and make the adjustment. And I will say it was the toughest auction I think I've ever been in, but it cut my teeth real fast. I do think I am a fairly quick learner. And if there's a strategy or a competition that I can put some practice into and get better at, give me the hardest possible challenge right up front so that I know what I'm up against. And eventually I got to win that league, which was really, that was a cool league win. I was really happy when I won Capitalist Picks, because I was beating these people that, like, these are the people that create the content that I consume. It was pretty cool. So that really, really got me into it. Once I got in there, and then Scott got me an SFB that year too. So that was my first year in SFB. That became unbelievable. And obviously things have progressed from there.
They certainly have. What's been the most rewarding part of your experience in the fantasy industry?
Oh, I mean, it's easily the fantasy care stuff. Every year when we go shopping, my wife and kids go with me, and usually some friends join us, and we go, we spend like $10,000 at Target. The Toys for Tots local representatives come with us, and we get to just donate all those toys to them. And that's, at this point now, that's just a small part of the amount of toys that we go and buy at Christmas. So that is individually rewarding and an experience that I look forward to every single year. But to know that we have been able to spread this, and we've now become an official charity, and we can just continue to grow it. I mean, it is unbelievably rewarding. It is what I won't say I never thought we could get there, but the fact that we have been able to do what we've been able to do, it's so cool. Like, thanks to Scott for that. Thanks to Scott for involving me. It's very, very cool. Thanks to the community for being extremely supportive of everything we do. I think people really do. I think they find joy in giving to Fantasy Cares. I think they trust what we are doing with the money that they donate to us. They enjoy the experiences that we provide. So it's so fun. It's a lot of work. It's an incredible amount of work. But it's easily the most rewarding thing. I love winning a championship. I'll take Fantasy Cares continuing to succeed over all of it.
I love that. And
Well, I don't know. My home league, I still want to win that one. Really
that one.
Maybe that one.
Yeah.
Maybe Fantasy Cares plateaus for a year, but I win my
Yeah.
championship, and then then we go back. No. I'm
that.
kidding. I'm of course kidding. For anybody that doesn't understand, I'm very much kidding. But I really do want to win that league.
Yeah, of course. That's huge. But yeah, you're right, and you're doing it alongside so many great people too, which I'm sure is just making it so much more fun as well. Obviously, the community has a ton of great people. What's it been like to get connected with so many people in the fantasy industry and in the fantasy community? What have those friendships meant to you over the years?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, Scott and Bob and Russ are, I mean, they're friends for life at this point. I went to Disney with Bob's family last summer, just for like a quick 2-day trip. And it was great. So my family was there, his family was there. I look forward to hanging out with them every year at the expo. Hopefully in future times, there will be times where we are all starting to attend like some SFB lives together, things like that. It's so much fun. I really enjoy my friendship with those three. It's a bond that just, I mean, it's a tight bond. It's good to be able to do it with them. I trust them, what we are doing. And it's so good. And I mean, I've made a lot of other friends along the way. There's a reason that in my bio, it says that I do want to literally live in a van and watch Red Zone at my league mates' TV on their TVs, because I do, when I retire, I want to be able to drive around the country in a van. That's my goal. Live in a van and just see the country. I love traveling. I love seeing new places. I not necessarily a people person, but I enjoy actually the people that I enjoy them very much. So like I look forward to being able to spend time with people. When I've gone out to San Diego and got to meet up with Matt Price, we had a lot of fun out there when we went out there and visited. So it's cool. It's cool. There have been several times now where I've gone somewhere because of, we're going on an amusement park trip, something like that as a family. And I've been able to meet up with somebody and talk. Just spent the day on the beach with Zach Berger, the FF Chalupa Batman.
Awesome.
He came and joined us on the beach on a spring break trip. So that was really cool. Like we went on a cruise. I went on a cruise with him and never would have done that without the fantasy football world. Like he invited us to go with him, my family and his family. And we had a blast. Like we've had really good times with a lot of people that I've met online, which is strange,
crazy.
But
it's crazy, right?
You make a connection. You end up having a lot of fun with these people.
What's your experience been with the Fantasy Football Expo?
It's great. I mean, it's Bob does an unbelievable job. Highly recommend anybody go to it. That whether you're close enough to drive to it or you have to hop on a flight, it's fun. It is really, really fun. It is an experience that it's hard to describe without like being there. But once you're there, you're literally just talking to all these people in the fantasy football world, just talking with them, talking about football, talking about other stuff, playing poker with them, playing cornhole against them and with them. It's a really, really cool way to meet up and have that networking, have that invite experience and getting to know some of these people. And then the actual like expo part of it, there's so much information available during the actual expo. If you want to go booth to booth and talk to these places, if you want to find out more about ways to get involved in the fantasy football world, there's a lot of information there for that too. So it's a really good mix of enjoyment and information. Like you can there's very good talks that go on throughout the expo. You can learn a lot, you can have a lot of fun. It really is a great experience. What Bob has done with it is amazing, and looking forward to it this year and looking forward to it for years to come.
Nice. Now, how about those live SFB drafts? Talk to me about what you got brewing in 2024.
Oh, baby, the SFB live draft. So that is actually like the biggest reason that I kind of turned over the reins of the eliminators to HEP is so that I could try to take on a bigger role for the live drafts and start helping to grow those, because there's a lot of logistics and coordination involved in that. And Scott already has enough on his plate. So in order to help grow that, I wanted to be able to focus way more attention on that. And boy, have we. We are going to have over 30 events this year. Not all of them are announced yet. I think we still have 8 or 9 to announce. But hopefully those will be coming shortly, very soon. We are in the middle of April now. We need to get all of them out. But the SFB live events, you hosted one a couple years ago, the inaugural Seattle draft.
Yep.
That I don't think can be topped by literally any other live draft. I have told people, do not set that as your bar, because that is unachievable. Don't do that. That is, you set a bar that would be so high, and it's awesome. But the coordinator should not try to match that, because you got to be a crazy person to be able to achieve that. So kudos to you. But the coordinators put in a lot of work. Everybody goes out, make sure they find a venue where we can get together, do a draft, have a silent auction, raise some money, drink some beer, eat some food, raise a bunch of money for charity, have some fun, raise some money for charity. They become really, really fun fundraisers. If you're looking for a way to go to a charity fundraiser that is not going to be your put on a suit, coat, and tie and sit down at a stuffy dinner and listen to a speech, these are it. Because you can go and have a lot of fun. Show up, draft, whether you're drafting or not, go and watch people draft. I know that sounds like maybe it wouldn't be fun, but every single one of these SFB live events have so many things going on at them now. I coordinated Cincinnati last year. I don't think I sat down. It was constant. I did not draft. I was not a drafter. It was just going around talking to so many people, making sure that people were getting involved, making sure people were having fun, making sure people were filling out that silent auction form, dropping their raffle tickets in the cups to win the prizes. We got lots of prizes at all these events. It really is a fun experience. The demand for them is growing, which is great. So all of the returning events, there are plenty of people interested in those signups. And as we announce new ones, it's fun to see new markets start to grow that excitement and have those experiences. So, like I said, we're over 30 this year, and I have no plans of stopping. We have 5 or 6 internationals this year as well. So some fun international cities. I really think at some point I should have to go and oversee those ones personally. I mean,
yeah. Or the Hawaii,
right?
Hawaii.
Yep. I really think that I should have to go and oversee Hawaii and, Sao Paulo. Oh my gosh. Send me over to Spain. Yeah, I can. I'll make sure that it's going how we want it over there. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I would love to go to Lithuania too. I would enjoy seeing that one. So there's so many, but there's so many more places that we do want to go eventually. Yeah. Lots of places we want to continue to grow.
It's so cool. I mean, every element of that is cool. And the fact that all these cities are having them, they're unique, different experiences. They're like mini expos, but in some ways they're so much better because it's a concentrated event with people that are most likely local to that area. Yeah. So you're meeting people, from the industry or, people that are just fantasy enthusiasts in that area you can, connect with and grow more relationships with. So everything that SFB Live is all about is something so cool. So proud to have, been a part of it with the Seattle event, and then I attended Trophy Smacks LA one last year. It's just so special. So if you can get to a live SFB draft, definitely do so. Definitely worth your time. It'll definitely impact you in a lot of ways. It's
a great way to meet people that, like you said, are local to you. These are fantasy football diehards. And that is, you talk about how to vet managers. When you make connections like this with people that live, an hour and a half to 2, like in a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour radius, when you're looking for somebody to replace somebody in your home league, things like that, you can find, you all of a sudden have this bank of people that you've connected with at a live draft that, hey, it might be an hour or 2 hour drive for them. They might be the type of person that is willing to make that kind of a drive to have a live draft rather than just, putting in somebody that it's the friend of a friend. They live real close. and they can be there. Like that's the kind of thing that it gives you more choices and it's a great way to make that connection, because most of the people that are going to come to these, it's really hard to be a terrible person and get invited to an SFB live event.
For sure. Talk about vetting.
Yeah, there's definitely vetting that goes into who is going to be drafting in the SFB live events. There's a reason that we have signups. There's a reason we have coordinators that look into making sure that the right people are getting selected. We want these to flow smoothly. We want these to be fun events. So you're going to find good people at the SFB live events. It's usually going to be just a bunch of people that are there to have fun and really celebrate fantasy football. So those are the kind of people you want to know.
For sure. Absolutely. Hey, let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll just throw out some questions. You let me know what comes to mind. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
Still Fantasy Cares. I love it. I love what we're doing. I love the little contests that we spring out on people and people jump in and have fun. I love doing the live stream where we get to give away an SFB spot, like all the way from that, all the way up to, working on the SFB live events and SFB like that, that's like the pinnacle. And then we have like some small little events too. I have fun with all of it. It really is an enjoyable experience.
And side note on that, I love the videos and stuff you're doing. I have, one of my friends from my home league, Mark Brikoski. This guy, he's not in the industry. He watches every one of your guys' shows. Like, he just loves this stuff. I love that people are getting exposed to the personalities and the people behind Fantasy Cares. So
I loved what we did last year with the Fantasy Cares handle. We would, last year it was food themed. So we would tweet out and say, send us a picture of you smiling with whatever product this logo matches. Like, that's so silly. So but it's so fun. Like, and this year we have movies. Oh, we have some good ideas coming for those that we're going to be sending out. So I should say follow at Fantasy Cares org on Twitter, Fantasy Cares YouTube channel. Like, these are really good ways to participate, have fun, interact. And people always ask, how do you get into SFB? This is a really good way is to interact with Fantasy Cares. Like, play along when we send out something and say reply with a stupid little silly GIF or whatever. Like, that's what's fun. Like that's fun to see in a timeline. It's fun to scroll down through that. It is not hard hitting news. It is not hard hitting fantasy football advice, but it's fun. Like, that's what we're having with this. We're having fun. So have fun with us.
I love that. Can you name one person that you love to watch a football game with, just to hear their perspective on the game?
So this is tough. I mean, it would probably be Matthew Berry. There's a lot of people I would like to watch with, not necessarily his perspective of what he wants to happen. I love Matthew Berry. I want to watch him in that game where he comes up just short. Do you remember the SFB rant? The rant? Like, can you imagine like sitting on the couch next to him and that happens just live, like you're just watching. I mean, just again, not because I want him to be in pain, but that kind of a reaction is just so
priceless.
Yeah, when it's not you that it's happening to.
Yeah.
It's so much more entertaining. I've been on the other side of it. That side's not fun. I don't want to be the person that people are watching react. But anybody that can get that passionate over fantasy football, I enjoy watching. I would enjoy watching with them. And I think there's excitement levels too. But I mean, obviously, the defeats are way better. The reactions to the defeats are usually a little bit more entertaining than the reactions to the wins.
Of course. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
So outside of sports, it's usually my kids' sports or whatever they're doing. I am a beer snob. I am proud beer snob. Don't hide that at all. I love craft beer. I love sours. Travel is my biggest thing. And of course I can do beer and kids, like that can all go together. So there's a reason that my family vacations a lot or travels a lot and goes to a lot of amusement parks together. It's because that brings me joy. Like that's what I find. That's where I find happiness outside of doing work and fantasy football, is spending time with them, hanging out, doing stuff that's fun.
What's your favorite roller coaster?
Oh my. So it's Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. It is amazing. It's different than a lot of other roller coasters because you have no shoulder harness. So you're strapped in only by your legs, but you still go upside down. Like most upside down coasters require the over the shoulder harness. It is so fast. It is so wild. It is the first time I went on it, I was like, wow, that is just a different feeling. Like you feel like you are going to fall out of your seat. You're not. You could not stand up if you tried, the way this harness goes down and locks in your lower half of your body, but you're just like kind of hanging then from the waist down at that point because you're upside down. That's probably like, that is top tier. That's my favorite. Shout out to Fury 325 at Carowinds in Charlotte. That is so fun. It's not one that goes upside down, but it's tall, it's fast, it's got a lot of the up and down, so you get a lot of airtime on it. Your butt's not in the seat a lot of times because you're going up over a big huge hill, and you know how that feeling. I love that feeling of it dropping. I find that feeling very fun. So
have you been on the Velocicoaster? How does that compare to those?
I have not been on that. I have not been to those parks. Most of the parks I've been to were Cedar Fair because we were pass holders, which allowed us to get to all of them, or Disney parks. But
how about Guardians? How about Guardians? What do you think?
Guardians was great. Yes, get to do that last year on the trip with Bob. It was fantastic. Of the Disney coasters, I think Guardians is my favorite. Like I was very happy that Disney is starting to get into that kind of a coaster.
Yeah.
Because for me, like the first time I ever went to Disney, I was 19, I think 18. I was 18 or 19. Went with my wife and her family, and she had a little sister that was, like 12 at the time, something like that, 11. And I was like, I don't get this. This is not fun. Like, I grew up going to Kings Island and going on roller coasters. That's what I like to do. Disney did not have that. But once I started taking my kids there, is a whole different story. I was like, oh, this is okay. Now I get it. This is fun to watch them. But now there's a mix. Like now that we can do things like these big, huge coasters. I mean, even Space Mountain, which is fun. It's not as good as like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a different kind of roller coaster.
Yeah. How about an all-time favorite TV show? What's your favorite TV show?
It's probably still The Office. They're like I have a hard time sometimes picking between The Office and Parks and Rec and Always Sunny. All of them are annual rewatch shows. Like
nice.
Right now I'm watching the Office. It's what I do in my background when I'm working, like things like that. I'll just turn on The Office, doing the super fan cut through this time. So it's probably The Office. I can quote that pretty much start to finish.
Nice. Do you have an all-time favorite movie?
It's probably The Goonies. As much as I like watching movies, I'm not somebody who I can't rewatch movies over and over and over. I can rewatch some, like The Goonies, like I said. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, also very fun. Just introduced that one to our kids about a week ago. We all watched it, and I was like, oh man, I hope they like this one. Sure enough, it holds up pretty well. They enjoyed it. It was very fun to be able to experience that movie, which I loved as a kid, and watch my kids enjoy it. Usually a lot of the movies we've gone back to, unfortunately, either don't hold up and are terrible, or our kids have not enjoyed them on this.
They just don't get it. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
When you go back, it kind of ruins a little bit of that nostalgic feeling. But often the Goonies did not. So those are probably my top two.
Good. How about an all-time favorite sports movie?
So I should probably say The Hurricane because that was my first date with my wife.
Okay.
Actual movie, I really like The Sandlot. I mean, I'm a sucker for that. Again, my kids like that one too, so that was good. I'm a pretty big sucker for The Sandlot, and I feel like I could probably rewatch that one a lot and not get tired of it.
Nice. How about name a celebrity that would play you in a movie?
Oh my! I actually did not see this question on the list. I have no idea.
I know the answer, but I want to know what you can't come up with one.
I'm so bad with celebrities and pop culture. I'm so terrible at
No,
it.
it's so obvious. Every time I ever hear your voice or see you, it's Kurt Russell. Do you ever get that? Does anybody ever say that?
Well, I will take that. I mean, I am aware of who he is, and I'll take that.
Has
Yeah,
anybody ever said that to you?
I don't think so, but I will take that. I'm happy to take that. Sure, Kurt Russell. I
Kurt
think
Russell.
he was in a. If I'm thinking about the right one, he's the one like he's married to Goldie Hawn, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, did a movie on a boat with an eye patch.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
yep.
Okay.
That was
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Overboard, Overboard. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my normal movie knowledge. It's that
Okay.
guy thing, and I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
easily
yeah.
describe it to the point where somebody else gets it.
Oh, that's funny. Do you have a favorite artist or band or musician?
Yeah, this is easy. Smashing Pumpkins, they are
Nice.
my all-time favorite band. That was the first concert that I attended. I will forever love them. Like I said, I'm not an artist. There was one project in high school that I was very proud of. We had to draw like a person, and I drew Darcy. But like our teacher actually like walked us through the steps of like gridding and drawing little by little, and I nailed that project. And I was like, wow, that's a really cool picture. So I am a big Smashing Pumpkins fan. I will forever love
Nice.
them. Even their new stuff when like I will say there was a period where I probably wasn't following them as much, but they put out some new stuff recently, and I went and listened to it, and I was like, oh man, this is like takes me back. Smashing Pumpkins, this is good. I like this. So
Nice, nice.
it's,
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that answer. What are you most grateful for at this time?
I mean, this is easily family. It always has been, always will be. Like that is what grounds me. That is everything else is ancillary. It really is.
That's the best answer. I love it. Can you name a few people that have just had a huge impact on you during the process, being in the industry in the community?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Scott and Ryan, like I said, that was the way I was introduced to them was it was interesting, but the fact that those two responded when I sent in an idea about a league was amazing to me. Uh,
Yeah,
Ryan will actually now be in my home league. He's joining it this year, so that league that I have never won is going to get harder to win
yeah,
because
it is.
now Ryan's joining it. But so like, I mean, meeting them, that's really, really impactful, obviously. Like life changing. When I say that meeting Scott and discussing like his philosophy of charity through fantasy and stuff like that, I am not kidding when I say it is life changing for me. That is never something I had thought about, like putting putting charity into my fantasy football. And now like it's a driving force of the fantasy football stuff that I do. So it really is. I mean, I don't know how anybody could have a bigger impact in the fantasy industry than the impact he's had on me.
It's fantastic. I love that. What advice do you have for people that want to get involved in the industry, whether they're a content creator now wanting to do more, or someone who just on the outside wants to get involved? What advice do you have?
Participate positively, interact positively, show up positively. There's a theme here. It's being positive. The person that like if you are the person that just wants to always tell people why they're wrong, you're going to come across as a negative. I mean, there's a way to have discussions and interact and you know have differences of opinion, things like that. But sometimes you just got to be positive with people. And like I love a good argument. I will fight with people about some things because to me, I just enjoy the discussion. I When you can't do it in a manner where it's kind of a positive, you should be able to do it in a manner that's positive. So that's really my biggest advice is be positive, but I mean interacting. That's really how you get involved is get involved. There's no other way around it. You're not gonna get involved by accident. You're gonna have to make conscious decisions to actively involve yourself with things and do so in a positive manner so that people then enjoy that interaction they had with you.
Yeah, great advice. And obviously that positive leading with that positivity, it makes a big difference. You have to have an impact that's positive with people for them to embrace you, right? Like so leading with positivity, getting involved, that's excellent advice. Anything we haven't shared? Are there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to share before we close things out here?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, if you are a commissioner out there, like Scott always says, discuss having a portion of your league fees go to charity. I mean, with the difference we can make if people donate one entry fee is unbelievable, and nobody's ever going to miss it. Like when you win your league, there's pride that matters above all else. So an extra $50 isn't going to take away anything from that pride of winning. Win your league, have that league prize be $50 less, and donate some to Fantasy Cares or another charity that you're passionate about. We can't even measure that, but there are lots of leagues out there now that maybe they don't give it to Fantasy Cares, which is fine. But each year they select a charity that they're going to donate to and play for. And it's so cool to hear those stories as well. Obviously, we love when the donations go to Fantasy Cares. That's why we set up the charity so that we can actually start, doing that and give people a place to give. But even the ones that give to anything, you find a food bank that's local to you and your league helps support that. You buy meals for people. Like that's huge. That makes such a difference. And that really is that is the lasting impact of Fantasy Cares at this point.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, when you win that home league, finally, whether it's next year or 10 years from now, the last thing you're going to be worried about is how much you won. You're going to be thinking about the pride for winning that championship, right?
I would give all the money in the league away. I just want to win the league.
All right, John, tell listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, X, whichever one you want to call it. I at John Bosch FF. That is where you will find me interacting all the time. I am on Twitter. The show, like I said, at Dynasty Wall Street. That one is on the Dynasty Trade Calculator podcast feed. At fantasycares.org. Follow that on Twitter and all other socials. Go update your SFB profiles. Go sign into Scott Fishbowl. Update your socials, because while we have Twitter for everybody, we need that Instagram. We need your YouTube handle. All these other socials that we're starting to grow and grow and grow. Go subscribe to that YouTube channel, Fantasy Cares, and participate. Get involved. You'll be surprised what comes of it.
Right on. There you go. That's John Bosch, commissioner of commissioners, like one of the best commissioners, most dedicated commissioners on this planet. Make sure you're following him for all the commission stuff, as well as everything he's doing at Fantasy Cares and on his podcast as well. So thank you so much for joining me, John. It was an absolute thrill, absolute pleasure. And I cannot wait to see you in Canton, Ohio, at the Fantasy Football Expo this summer.
I'll be there.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.